the nations of the earth are gathered. Scripture says that Satan is loosed in chapter 19 of the Revelation. Satan is loosed for a little season to go out and deceive the nations one last time, to bring them to battle for Gog and Magog, and that they do. So we know that there are ungodly kings at that point, and that there are ungodly military rulers because they come to create battle against the holy city, the New Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's a good question.
It makes you wonder what reigning with him means.
Yeah, what reigning with him means. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So after the 1,000 years and the Gog and Magog wars, are there still people outside New Jerusalem, or is that all gone?
Well, you know what? This is a really good question because we don't know the answer to that. She was just asking me that last 2 weeks ago. I don't know anything that talks about what happens after the millennial reign of Jesus. It ends pretty much with God and man. I mean, God's with man, that we're together in the New Jerusalem. I don't think that goes away because my understanding is that it's an eternal city. It's that her light shines forever, right? So I don't think that ever stops. But there's not anything that I can think of in the scripture that really talks about what happens after the millennial kingdom. It's done. I don't know. There's the Gog-Magog war, and God cleans house. It says fire comes from heaven and destroys all of the armies. That's kind of the end of it. That's really where our future cast stops.
More to come.
Yeah. What's that?
More to come.
More to come. Yeah. Don't know what it is. Yeah. Good question.
I have a question.
Go, dear.
I have a question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so the day of the Lord, and that's a new light, and then we're talking about the size of New Jerusalem. How far does Jesus' light reach?
Yeah.
If there's nations beyond.
Yeah, it says that the nations will walk in the light of it, but I don't know. We don't have anything that tells us how far outside of the city it goes. We just know that the city itself doesn't need light. But how far outside of the city that light goes, I don't think the scripture tells us, honestly. The sun and the moon don't go. The sun and the moon haven't gone away yet, though, during the millennial kingdom because they're referenced. So. It's just that they're not needed inside the city, right? So, but I don't know, like, how far outside the city it goes. I don't think I know the answer to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it just made me curious.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I don't know that Scripture actually says. I do know this though, that the New Jerusalem does not replace the sun. That much I know. So the sun is still there during the days of the New Jerusalem until the Lord dissolves the heavens, right? So. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Somebody else? Thoughts? Yeah.
Okay, so there's 12 foundations, but wouldn't there just be one? I don't understand the 12. What does 12 foundations mean?
Yeah, I think the way I've always perceived it, and I don't know. I'll just tell you I don't know, but I'm going to tell you what I think, okay? I think of it in layers. It sounds to me like that the foundations are on top of each other, right? 12 foundations. And each one has the name of the apostle, like that. Right?
And each one has a different jewel.
Each one has a different jewel adorning it, right? Which means that they're like affixed to it somehow. It's not that the layer is made of the jewel. It's like someone superglued them to the outside of it, right?
The jewel.
Yeah, right. The ultimate bedazzled experience.
Yeah.
So how high did you say New Jerusalem is?
It's 1,500 miles.
So you divide that by 12, right?
Well, we don't know how high the foundation is. It doesn't say.
Right.
Right. So the city itself is 1,500 miles tall, but we don't know the foundation would be a portion of it, and then the city would be on top of it. So we don't know how high the foundation is. So that's the part we don't have. Whatever it is, it's big. Right? I mean, if you think about the fact that the foundation is 300, in essence, about 300 feet wide, right? I mean, even if they're 300 by 300 foot by 300 foot blocks. You're still talking each layer is a football field tall, right? So, and that's, in essence, that would be it's 10 feet to a story, and 300 feet would be 30 stories, so you'd have a 30-story building for each foundation, maybe? I don't know. That's totally a guess. I don't have any idea. I'm just saying that, just using what I know, I could guess it maybe that. It'll be fun to see what it looks like when we finally get to see.
That's on God.
Oh, hang on.
Have you ever been to the Arch in St. Louis?
Yes.
and stood under it and looked up at it.
Yeah,
It's just this overwhelming feeling.
yeah,
Can you imagine this? Can you imagine the city compared to that? I
yeah,
mean, it's
no,
it's like trying to imagine eternity. It's just beyond our comprehension.
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you think about the Twin Towers that were in Manhattan were 120 stories tall. Is that right? 120, I think it was. So if you think about that, and the average story is 10 feet, so 120, that's 1,200 feet tall, right? That's 1,200 feet. So that would be the equivalent to like 3 foundations, right? One Twin Tower would equal 3 foundations. Isn't that right? 3, I guess 4 foundations would be 120 feet. But if they're 300 feet, right? I mean, again, I don't know. So, but we have Devon Tower here in Oklahoma City, and that's 53 or 54 stories tall. So that's 540 feet. And we drive down at night, and we like to get out of the car and just look up, and then think Twin Towers, 2.5 of those, Devon Towers.
Yeah.
You know, I've never seen the Twin Towers. I've never been to. I was never there when they were there, so I've never stood underneath of them to understand it. But I can use my imagination with
Yeah,
Devon Tower.
I have been to the Twin Towers. I was at the Empire State Building, and I can tell you from the ground looking up, you can't see the top. You
Really,
can't see those top stories, and
that's crazy.
and if you don't have the magnifying glass to look around when you're on the top, you can't really see anything on the ground except for little matchbox stars. But the height of them is just, when you crane your neck back that far, you actually get dizzy.
Yeah, I believe
You
it.
can't imagine the light of God filling every space within the buildings, and, I mean, any city thinking of the light of God fills every crevice with His light.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Yeah,
Just
that-
feeling it everywhere.
And the interesting thing about, again, with the light that the scripture talks about here, it says it's not a light. It's not a type of light that is clear or dark. It's a different type of light. I mean, it's a qualitatively different type of light. So it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like. What is light? I mean, so process this. It goes back to Genesis for me, because Scripture says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Right? Earth was void and without form, and then God said, "Let there be light." Well, when God created light, there was no luminary to express it. So light existed before there was ever a sun or anything else, right? So we know that God's definition of light is different than our definition of light anyways, because He created light before there was anything to be seen. When I look at Genesis and I see the creation of God, that first "let there be light" is, for the way I understand it, is that's when God created all of the rules of the universe, the laws of physics, thermodynamics, all those things. He put all those pieces in place, and that was the framework by which He then followed and created the rest of it on the rest of the days of creation, right? So that very first day were all of the invisible elements before anything else came to be. So light was part of the original creation prior to any luminary experience. So we'll get the chance to see what the Lord sees light, how He sees it, what it is. The interesting thing is that we'll be able to see this new type of light, whatever it is, and that the people who are not yet resurrected and are still living in bodies that will experience death will also be able to see this light of the Lord that's not either clear or dark. Right? So it's going to be interesting when we get the chance to actually see what does this light really look like, and we'll go, "Oh, that's it," when we finally see it. It's going to be like, now it makes sense, right? Yeah.
I think all of this too really puts into perspective when we put forth the idea that maybe we are alone in this universe.